Hey random stranger, it's been months and we're finally getting back to Hibike, and because it's been so long, we're going to be watching the OVA of season 1 followed by episodes 1 and 2 of season 2. Last time we'd gotten past the whole drama of Reina and Kaori's trumpet solo showdown, and everyone, including Yuko, has, I guess, found some kind of peaceful equilibrium with the fact that Reina is their best trumpet player, and they had to pull it together because they were weeks out from the preliminary competition and the pressure was on. Episode 12 was like the finger tape episode where everyone just pushed really hard to nail down the perfect performance, and it was also the episode where your mind is just blown at how much Kumiko has changed since the start of season 1, and you see her literally putting in blood, sweat and tears into her music. And then episode 13, of course, was the actual competition. But I think the most important aspect of that concluding episode was that it constantly mirrored scenes from episode 1 to show how Kumiko's mindset has evolved throughout the season. So we started with Kumiko struggling with a new part that she has to play. Asuka, the genius, had gotten it immediately, of course, but the rest of episode 12 focused on Kumiko, her persistence at getting good. And interestingly, it's sort of like a stubborn persistence that she's taken directly from Reina. There was a quiet, beautiful scene at the start when Kumiko was practicing outside, and just before she started, she took like a moment to breathe in, and then you could hear the wind rustling and the crickets chirping, and it's like a switch flips inside of her and she lets out this big, all right, let's do this. And I think to me, it was just so real to how musicians need to really mentally prepare themselves and harden their minds before setting out to conquer a really difficult piece of music that's just absolute hell to play. The next couple of seemingly random shots of like a butterfly, which is this constant motif that gets repeated throughout the episode, and people walking through the school, and that shot at the back where the bins are, they all struck me together as oddly accurate and reflective of how music practice is. Like it's boring and repetitive, and it feels like nothing really is happening, even though there is, because every second you go through the motions helps push you incrementally towards your goal or your destination. And it was almost like they were comparing practice to how time passes second by second, and often there are like long periods of seemingly nothing, but it's in those stretches of nothingness that your life still continues to happen and your practice is actually making small changes. Unsurprisingly, I so appreciate the depth of understanding that exists between Kumiko and Reina now. Reina just kept appearing out of nowhere to encourage Kumiko to keep practicing, and probably also to make sure that she didn't pass out or to get any more nosebleeds from lack of water. And the way that she encouraged Kumiko was also very on brand and true to the nature of her relationship with Kumiko. She's not like a Midori or a Hazuki who will cheerlead in a really exuberant way. Instead, Reina kept her sentences short. She very matter-of-factly states or points out that Kumiko is not competition ready yet, and she does that knowing that Kumiko herself knows that too and has the drive within her to keep practicing. It's cathartic seeing Kumiko want to be special like Reina. I think this first scene and later scenes where Kumiko more and more realizes that she wants to become an extraordinary youth player clearly conveyed that Kumiko's trying so hard to improve, not because she wants to impress Reina or anyone else, but because she has finally managed to tap into a deep part of herself that genuinely wants to excel. Like, Reina was the catalyst, but not the originator of Kumiko's ambition. And I think that's why these two have such a close connection. They share the same dissatisfaction with being just ordinary. For Kumiko, this drive to improve is relatively new and is so deeply felt, to the point where she pushed herself so hard that she ended up getting a nosebleed, and even then didn't let that stop her. And as Hazuki and Midori very accurately observed, Kumiko has been roused, like from a very lethargic state previously, of not really caring much about anything, to now being utterly possessed with a desire to be better, to be the best, just like Reina. I thought it was cute how when they practiced together, Reina's technique was perfect while Kumiko is still tripping over her notes. And they're similarly ambitious people, it's just that Reina's a little bit or quite a bit ahead in terms of technical skill, but the glances that Reina gave Kumiko and the tiny smile on her face when she was walking into school and she heard Kumiko practicing in the school grounds showed that she's pretty proud of her girl. Also, I think Reina is relieved, or would be relieved, that she now has a partner in crime who has the same mindset around being the best. How others might misinterpret their aspirations don't really matter anymore. They've been through and overcome the shittiness of jealous people or like self-entitled people or people who just don't understand why they're pushing so hard to be special. And now Kumiko and Reina have each other to support and to sort of keep each other accountable for this path that they've chosen. Sometimes you don't really know how badly you want something until the people around you give up that very thing. For Kumiko, the fact that Aoi and her sister Mamiko had both given up playing in the band to focus on study, even though they had clearly enjoyed the music immensely, lit a fire underneath her butt to stick to her guns, to her youth. And a chance meeting with Aoi revealed supposedly that she doesn't regret quitting band because, again, she supposedly considers exams to be far more important to her. And it was quite striking at this point that she has couched her acceptance as a personal choice, as in she didn't say that it was her parents who wanted her to prioritize study or that someone else had advised her that it would be better for her future. Aoi instead made a point to let Kumiko know that given her personal preferences, quitting would have happened anyway. But the next time where she kind of like looked down and the smile dropped from her face and she admitted that she just hadn't found a good enough reason to continue. That melancholy right there felt like that was what she's truly feeling deep, deep down. So initially she tried, in my opinion, or at least that's how I read this scene, she had tried painting quitting as a positive, active choice that she'd made. It was something that she wanted. But I think the truth was that she just didn't have enough fight in her to keep going with something that she really enjoyed but didn't necessarily see as contributing to a future stable career. And that's really common amongst people, students in school who learn or play music. And I think Aoi is not a character to look down on just because of the choice that she made, because to pursue music alongside study, and this is like drawing from my experience of persisting with music exams for years and years and years, all the way from primary up to high school, when I finally hit that professional performance level, you really, really need bloody stubborn grit to get there, plus a bit of luck. It's as much a mental game as the practical side of things. Like, it's not, how to put this, it's not enough to enjoy playing an instrument. You have to enjoy it so much and be so passionate about it that you are willing to withstand the pressure of performing on top of the normal pressure of doing well at school and thinking about your future. It's kind of like being swept down the river by a current. Like, to get to where you want to be, you really have to swim against the current. Hibike being set in Japan, which is notorious for its incredibly tough school system, it's no wonder why Aoi chose to drop band. And I really, really feel for her, because it's not that she wasn't good enough, it's just the reality of having to keep up with a band who's now seriously gunning for nationals changed the entire equation for her. On the flip side, unlike Aoi, Kumiko realized that she enjoys playing the youth so much that she's willing to bleed and sweat for it, and that it takes precedence over all else, including study and potentially having a social life. She's also got a huge advantage over Aoi by being in a lower year, but also I think she's naturally talented. And this is where luck comes in with regards to whether or not someone can continue with music while they study. Some students have more talent than others and can pick up on musical technique much faster than others, which frees up more of their time for them to keep the other parts of their life afloat. Someone else who similarly gave up band for study was Kumiko's sister, Mamiko, and she is yet another case study that hardened Kumiko's resolve to be special. Her memory of the moment when Mamiko decided or was pressured into, again, we just still don't really know, pressured into giving up something that she loved for the sake of her future, acted as a spark that further stoked that fire for Kumiko. And I think what's going on in Kumiko's head in this moment is that she doesn't want to become like everyone else who were talked into putting aside their childish dreams of doing what they enjoy. When she grabbed her youth and defiantly played it in the middle of the night so that everyone could hear her, it was like she was giving a big F you middle finger to society and all of its expectations of how eventually teenagers should sacrifice their passions to concentrate on securing their futures. At the end of episode 12, Mamiko comes to warn Kumiko that spending all of her time and efforts on music will mean that she won't get into university, which is something that all Asian kids everywhere have heard, especially those with passions that are considered not conducive to a stable career. Things like music or art or really anything that's more creatively inclined. But Kumiko clapped back with like, you didn't even get into the university that you wanted, which I felt was unnecessarily cruel given that I'm sure Mamiko did her best. And she also meant well. Like, she was passing on that all too relatable conventional wisdom onto Kumiko that obviously was passed on to her, which was don't waste your time continuing in band if you don't even have plans to study music in your higher education. But Kumiko is coming from the perspective of what is the point of life if you're not going to do the things that you enjoy the most or feel passion for? And I was like, yeah, go Kumiko, because you know, you could say that it's a very naive teenage view of looking at the world, like sky's the limit, follow your heart and don't let the world drag you down. But I would argue also that people who have accomplished amazing things in all different fields are also the ones who live by Kumiko's philosophy. It's the people who stick to their passions and pursue them with a laser-like focus that then go on to achieve greatness. And usually during that journey, they suffer lots of discouragement and condescension from people who believe that instead of shooting for the moon, they should really be aiming for the ground. The boldness and the simplicity of Kumiko's reason for persisting with band takes Mamiko aback for a second, but then she shrugged it off in a kind of a dismissive way, probably thinking in her head, it's only a matter of time before reality bites and you have to get off your high horse and you'll know that I'm right. And speaking from an Asian perspective, and maybe other cultures are the same or similar, Kumiko's assertion of wanting to do music and Mamiko's dismissive response really hits home. All my Asian friends were expected to or did learn one or two or several instruments when growing up, or, you know, studied singing. But as soon as we all hit high school or late high school, it became like a crazy idea to think that you could keep studying music past that, let alone continue with it in university. And if you were going to do music, you had better pair it with something practical. Like, I know people who bypassed the Asian standard by getting degrees in music and education, or bizarrely music and med school. And in the Asian mentality, there are certain careers that are considered more stable or prestigious. Like, woe to you if you don't like the idea of becoming an accountant or some kind of health professional or a lawyer, because the tension between your passions and the expectations that are placed on you by parents to get a proper job after you graduate can be immense. Also, a lot of Asian parents tend to compare their kids to other kids, and there's like a whole gossip network that happens, which is a shitty thing, but also a very real additional pressure that Asian kids often have to deal with when weighing up their options. So I can imagine, even though it's never explicitly said in Hibike, that maybe Mamiko was also put under that similar sort of pressure. It was interesting when Kumiko looked into the mirror and repeated to herself that she likes the euphonium. And inevitably, there are lingering doubts in Kumiko's head, even though she just stated unequivocally that she wants to keep playing in band. High school is just a time where you start to question how much you can stick to your guns in pursuing the things that you really enjoy. And it's not limited to music. It's that old argument over whether it's realistic to try and turn your passion into a career. And there's a lot of uncertainty, and it's hard, especially when a lot of people, including people that you look up to and who care about you, tell you that you need to maybe knock your dreams down a notch. Like, are you being too idealistic and even irresponsible if you refuse to sacrifice your passions for the sake of a more conventional pathway that is more likely to pay the bills in the future? We're back in rehearsals, and once again, I got a kick out of how the orchestra we hear, or the band, sorry, we hear matches the level at which the band is at. Like, you could hear the lack of articulation in the bass part, and musical realism has always been a strength of Hibike's, and I think it would be vastly harder actually to record a band that's kind of mid-level, like not awful but not professional either. Continuing on that theme of musical realism, the way that Kyoani conveyed the pressure and the process of practicing was also eerily accurate. Kumiko is given an ultimatum, like a fair one, I might add, that if she can't get good, she's going to ruin it for everyone else. And this part where they ran through like the frustration of your fingers and your muscle memory not quite keeping up with your mind and how you know you should sound, it gave me actual flashbacks of a lot of my practice sessions where you're just doing the same run over and over and over again and nothing is clicking, and you're just waiting and praying for that perfect amalgamation of correct finger placement, correct phrasing, correct rhythm, correct tone, correct everything. And when you think about it, it is actually kind of amazing how mechanical and precise music is, and how much needs to go right all at the same time for it to become magic. And once you manage to produce a piece of music in its perfect form, like when it finally comes together and it all flows, all of the practical and the mechanical components that were needed to get to that point kind of melt away, and that's when you enter heaven, basically. But until that happens, it is a mother just trying to get there. And Hibike just full marks on how they convey that pain. When Taki cut Kumiko from the part that she'd been practicing so hard to get, it's brutal, but again, fair. Even the normally unflappable Asuka kind of jolts for a second. Her friends feel bad for her, and Reina too feels bad because she's the one who's seen how badly Kumiko wanted this and that she'd put in the work. And Kumiko, her world just stops. Like, they used this rotating camera that then zoomed in on her face while a distorted brass sound plays in the background to really emphasize how her spirit kind of just got crushed a little. And there was also the recurring imagery of the butterfly, obviously a stand-in for Kumiko, who is now caught in this web of hard musical reality. And it's almost casual, like how quickly you can lose your standing in music in one respect, especially because in a musician's journey, there's just so many points that are marked by these one-off high-stakes events like practical exams and then competitions, that sometimes what's counted isn't so much the effort that you put in, but your results. And it's a tough standard that's not wrong, it's just how things are. Of course, there's the other view that is equally valid and that balances out this harsh reality that's brought up by Midori and Hazuki when they're trying to cheer Kumiko up with copious amounts of food. And so Midori took the glass half full perspective and reminded Kumiko that at least she tried. You know, she became a much better player, and there is value in that, ultimately, even though she didn't get the outcome that she wanted. Note Kumiko's face though. I am sure that she appreciated Midori's encouragement, but she was in that spiral where she'd replay the moment that she'd lost the part over and over again in her head. And there are many moments in music and in other very competitive fields where it feels like you only have one shot, and if you mess up, that's it. Like, it feels like the end of the world and you're a total loser, even that's not true. But at the same time, especially when you get to a professional level, actual results do matter. It's this difficult seesaw between the optimistic view that trying is all that matters versus the realist view that if you want to get ahead in music, pure effort without any actual results is not good enough. Kumiko's disappointment and her desperation to prove herself led to this, I'm pretty sure, is an iconic running scene where she let out her frustration at not being as good as she wants to be or as she knows she could be. And what was fascinating is that Kumiko's ambition has gone way beyond simply becoming a better player. It's to become so good that she outshines everyone else. And it shows how deeply this dream of Kumiko's to be special has taken root, because she's evolved to a point where she can actually envision a world in which she could be better than everyone else. And the fact that she'd fallen short of that made it hurt even more. And that's why, even though the saying, "At least you tried," is true, it doesn't give Kumiko any comfort, because she's now the kind of person who, for whom just trying isn't satisfying enough, and she wants to fight for results. I really liked this moment of solidarity between Shuuichi and Kumiko. Just imagine this scene playing out on a street near you. These two crazy kids yelling at each other from across the street that they want to improve. And this is probably one of the first moments between Shuuichi and Kumiko where they share like genuine emotion with each other. They've known each other since primary school and have had a lot of awkward moments, but this felt like they'd found camaraderie in this shared feeling of frustration at the insurmountable difficulty of progressing their skills to the level that they needed to. I don't think Kumiko was being overly dramatic, being so upset to the point of wanting to die. It was actually genius of them to replay in that moment the song that her former band had performed at the competition in which they'd won dud gold. It reflected the sudden realization that hit Kumiko of why Reina had been so upset way back in the start of episode 1. And she was experiencing the exact same thing Reina had, which was the utter devastation that comes when reality falls short of your expectations. When you fall short of a musical standard or a personal goal that you've set for yourself, it absolutely destroys you. And then that pain becomes a part of you, for better or for worse. Like, it either drives you to depression or makes you strive even harder to succeed. I guess there's also like a third option where you come up with a way to not care so much or focus on something else, like Aoi and Mamiko did. But we see Kumiko reject that and take the try harder option. Well, actually, at the start of the season, we do see her try to downplay how much she cared about musical results, but at this point that's out the window, and in comes like Reina's approach, which is like all or nothing. You either succeed or I'm gonna die. A lot of this episode focused on Kumiko's internal thoughts and emotions, but we also got a great moment of reconciliation between Reina and Kaori and Yuko. And in another sign that Reina has matured in the way that she conducts herself around others, she took the initiative to apologize for projecting her superiority so insensitively during auditions. I mean, I think it's questionable whether she actually had something that she needed to apologize for, given that it was Yuko who was the one who forced Reina into a corner in a very public setting, but that's not really the point. And also maybe Reina could have expressed the facts of the situation in a kinder way. The important thing now though is that all of that is water under the bridge, and I loved seeing Reina and Kaori work through their initial differences in such a humble and dignified way. And you could tell that Yuko was a bit speechless and flustered, doubly more so when Kaori apologized too. And then of course Natsuki was there with her perfect timing to just capture Yuko's awkwardness, and it was overall just a really heartwarming moment. Some interesting nuggets of information came out of Kumiko's conversation with Taki. So Taki's dad, Toru, was the school band's advisor up until 10 years ago, and Kumiko asked Taki about like the pressure of stepping into his dad's shoes, and it turned out that Taki didn't want or never imagined that he would get his dad's job or take it, and yet here he is having made that choice to take on the same role. And it was vague whether Taki meant that he never wanted to be a band advisor but came to discover that he has a real passion for it, like how Kumiko just recently discovered that her passion for the Euphonium goes really deep, or he meant that he enjoys music itself, and taking this particular job, even if it wasn't his first choice, allowed him to pursue that passion for music while also making enough money to get by. I mean, one could imagine all sorts of reasons why Taki ended up in his dad's job. I guess pressure from his dad to pursue the same career, to carry on his father's legacy maybe, or maybe Taki was a musician who performed as part of a band, but reality bites, and to continue having a career in music, well, that was at least in music, he took the job. Whichever way you interpret it, and maybe we'll find out more later, it's significant that Kumiko is seeing what it might look like for an adult to have pursued something that they enjoy, that it might just be possible for her as well, and it must have injected her with hope. Like, having seen how Aoi and Mamiko were forced to give up band, to then see someone who's much further ahead in life by contrast succeed at integrating their enjoyment of music into their life and into their job. Sometimes it takes just one person that you can look up to who's been there and done that, and who's doing something that you want to do in the future, to inspire you to even imagine that you could pursue a career and a life that you actually enjoy. Like, that it is possible to respectfully go a different direction than to what most other people are and what other people are telling you to do. Episode 12 ended with Taki giving Kumiko like a second chance to get good enough in time for the competition. And given the context of the conversation that they just had, it was almost as if Taki recognized a bit of himself in Kumiko. Like, I'm sure there were moments in his life where he'd experienced intense disappointment at not making the cut. So I kind of imagined that this was him, on top of being a kind teacher, just paying it forward to someone else who's in the position he was once in and who is as passionate for music as he is. Also, it might have just been him having faith in her, recognizing that she has the willpower to level up. Of course, Reina was the one that Kumiko immediately rushed to tell first about the good news, and I've already raved about KumiRei numerous times. So all I will say is it is so satisfying to see their relationship grow stronger. More and more they are sharing in each other's ups and downs, and the bond that you have with someone who understands exactly how much importance you place on excelling in your area of passion is very rare. And we mentioned this before, like Kumiko has friends like Hazuki and Midori who will reassure her when she fails, which is valuable, but it's also different to the kind of connection you have with someone who is cut essentially from the same cloth as you, who has similar high expectations and who won't sugarcoat reality for the sake of sparing your feelings. So Kumiko and Reina, I think, are kindred spirits when it comes to their drive to succeed in music. This was an interesting quote to end on. The gods don't smile upon those who make an effort. And it's, I think, an observation on how the amount of effort that you put in isn't necessarily correlated to how well you do. In other words, effort is a necessary but insufficient condition for success. And for me, this leads to an interesting question whether it's healthy for a kid to push themselves hard to succeed, like to the point where, like Kumiko, they break down in tears and are frustrated that they've failed. And I think it really depends on the individual. So when I taught piano and violin, part of the challenge was differentiating between students that I could push harder because I knew that they themselves wanted to improve and they had displayed the raw talent to do so, versus students for whom I would be slightly more, I guess, lenient and more likely to say, oh, as long as you try, that's all that matters. Of course, like for every student, like all they can do is their best. And you do need to be empathetic with how tough it is, which I think Taki is actually doing a great job at. But the point I'm getting at is, as someone who went through the grueling process of attaining a higher level of music qualification, and also as someone who from the other side like taught music and had to help students through that process, certain kinds of people are just built to be more stubbornly persistent and respond well to having high expectations placed on them. Maybe that's where like luck or destiny comes into the equation. People like Kumiko and Reina have both the talent and also just naturally that spirit inside of them that pushes them to succeed. The final thing to note from the end of this episode is I don't know why Reina's face became slightly crazed when Kumiko mentioned that she'd been alone with Taki. I mean, I do know, but I don't really want to think about it. It just gave me a bad sense of foreshadowing because it does seem like they are going to keep going with his high school crush storyline. The competition itself took place in episode 13, and immediately noticeable were all the allusions or the parallels to episode 1, I think as a way to signpost how much Kumiko has grown throughout the season. So, for example, instead of being lethargic and thinking about why her boobs aren't bigger as she looks over herself in the mirror, Kumiko was up even before the alarm went off to go over her music. And so she's pretty nervous, but also very keen. Instead of also like shortening her skirt to make it look better, she just kind of lets it sit at normal knee length height, showing that her mind's not really on her appearance at all. Like her focus is entirely on the competition, which is a complete about face for someone who was like notorious for being very non-committal and just kind of shallow too, because if you're not going to care about anything that really matters, then naturally you kind of just gravitate towards more superficial things. Kumiko left the house hella early, and it must have been weird for her mom and also Mamiko to see this very hyper-focused version of Kumiko. I think it would have been like, who are you and what have you done with our Kumiko? I think especially for Mamiko, it would have been even more difficult to see her younger sister living the life that she once used to enjoy. I reckon there's some significant symbolism to the tying up of the hair because it's done in a very intentional way, as if it's a ritual you do before you ride into battle. Also, later, Reina asked Kumiko to help her tie up her hair. Again, it kind of felt like it represented this last rite that they do before they go out and give their all to the performance. And by the way, the blushing, I could not handle the blushing. I just love the trust that exists between the two of them now. Like, they are just so comfortable with each other. Suffice to say, the KumiRei dynamic just keeps getting better and better, and the contrast between how stoic they were sitting next to each other on the subway before they started like elbowing each other was great. Note also that it was Reina who initiated the elbowing, which was a subtle nod again to how far she's come as well in terms of finding someone she can let her guard down in front of and be less serious with. The montage of students as they headed into school conveyed that weird suspended period of time just before a music competition where nerves are at their worst because you dread what's coming next and just want it to be over, but also you're really super excited about it. Interestingly, Asuka was already at school really early, warming up with her youth. And we'll talk about it later, but the vibe Asuka was giving off was another foreshadowing that something is weighing heavily on her mind and that she's not going into this competition as her usual self, and that we are definitely getting some drama that's going to unfold with her. I liked that we not only see that it's Kumiko and Reina who have changed so much since the beginning of the season, but so have the other students in the band. For example, we see and we hear them actually warming up already really early, even before Haruka and Kaori get there, which is such a huge contrast to when Haruka had to beg a lot of them to even care about band. During the part of the episode where they focused on the logistics of getting the entire band over to the music competition, there were also hints of the whole Shuuichi, Kumiko, Hazuki thing, which, okay, I guess. Like, I know that they're trying to plant seeds of a likely future straight coupling, but yeah, it's like the chemistry between Kumiko and Shuuichi so far has been quite unconvincing. Like, later when Shuuichi got up really close to whisper in Kumiko's ear, you know, about whether she's all right or not. Nope, just yuck. Like, her reaction to him trying to read her feelings was super relatable. Basically, please stop. I know, I'm aware that people will read this scene very differently, and that's totally fine. I've just been in Kumiko's shoes where guys, especially, though well-intentioned, have totally miscalculated and tried to get too close, and you're forced to decide whether you endure it just to be polite or you are really blunt and tell them to back off. Kumiko did what I would have done and stomped on Shuichi's foot really hard, which to me again reads as a clear signal to stop being creepy. But I also know that it could be playing into that universal anime media trope where if a girl hits or steps on someone, it's a sign that she likes them. Obviously, PSA to everyone that doesn't translate into real life. If you breathe into some girl's ear and she pushes you away or she steps on your foot really hard, take the hint and stop, because you just made her super uncomfortable. However you want to read it, it sets up this next interaction where Shuichi actually has something meaningful and encouraging to say, and they share like a cute little fist bump just before they go out onto stage. And why can't all interactions between these two be like this? I have such mixed feelings about Shuichi because I really, really like when he has moments with Kumiko where they support each other as friends. Like all of the longing glances and the forced flirty interactions I feel muddy that and are an attempt really to just shoehorn into the story a bland heterosexual attraction that I suppose is obligatory for your typical high school anime. Anyway, it is what it is. Like, as I've said before, I'm just happy that romance is not the focus of Hibike. Way more interesting was the tiny hint of what motivated Taki-sensei to take up this job. Like, whoever is in that photo, which I think was stuck to the inside of his music folder, that he is staring lovingly, almost wistfully at, is probably the key to understanding what he's even doing at Kateoji. Clearly, it's someone that he's drawing on for inspiration as he leads the kids towards a seemingly very distant and impossible goal. That scene actually was timed perfectly to the end of the emotional backing track that had been building in anticipation. And the second that the camera cut to Taki's hand on the photo, the music ebbed down into this very emotional ending chord, which I thought was a nice touch to highlight the sadness that you do sense in Taki as he looks at that photo. It was heartening when the students who hadn't made it through auditions had actually formed Team Monaca and contributed by making lucky charms for everyone else on the band and generally just being there for moral support. Natsuki's blushing was everything, and it got even better when she scored an embarrassing hit against Yuko by gifting her this gigantic charm because she loved her so much. So yeah, please start dating already. All of this just cemented Natsuki's position as the coolest person ever. And later, when she walked past Kumiko to give her an encouraging fist bump, it was a really satisfying tie-up to the arc in which Kumiko spent the last few years being paranoid about being hated for her musical talent by inadvertently taking up a spot that maybe a senpai could have had. And the existence of Natsuki reaffirms that not everyone is an asshole in a high-stakes environment, and that true friendship can flourish even when put under extreme competitive pressure. Okay, just more pre-competition shenanigans. Like, we love to see KumiRei shipping from Hazuki, who made sure that they got matching charms. The real MVP, though, was Haruka, who had to do an impromptu speech in front of everyone with no help from Asuka, of course. And what she said served as a neat wrapping up of all the drama that had happened in the months leading up to this competition. Her message was basically, let bygones be bygones. Today is all about giving it our all, knowing that we've put in the hard work and knowing that we can be proud of ourselves regardless of the outcome. Since we're talking about speeches, people were surprised that Taki seemingly hadn't prepared anything meaningful to say, but he did end up having some great words of encouragement, and he reminded them that it was their choice to try and make it to nationals, that it was their combined efforts that have carried them this far. And I also especially loved that he told them to be proud of themselves. Like, in my years of taking music exams, it's so rare to hear from teachers. Like, it was a bit better with orchestra and choir, but yeah, there are conductors or teachers out there who are much more, I guess, straight to the point, business driven, and aren't really about the motivational side of things. So the fact that Taki expressed full confidence in their ability to do well and to wow the audience, and just the fact that he reassured them of their value and their worth regardless of whether they would win the competition or not in the end, was just A+ teacher move from Taki there. It was also significant that he gave them a unified identity to be proud of. Like, not only did it emphasize that they're now a legitimate force to be reckoned with, but it acknowledged how much work it took for them to become such a cohesive unit with so many different sections and parts within sections, plus all the different personalities and dramas and like human friction that's just always there in band or orchestra. It's almost a miracle when people can come together to play music as one fluid entity. What's up with Asuka? It's like she's resigned herself to some as yet unknown to us, fate. Like, she was the only one who wasn't really pumped for the competition, or at least struggled to express her excitement because something else was weighing on her mind. However, it did only take her a quick moment to switch back to her normal happy-go-lucky self and her role of like hype man, reminding us again that out of every character that we've met so far, Asuka is the one who is hardest to read and is very practiced at putting on a mask that few people see past, which is why it was important that it was in front of Kumiko, who Asuka was able to, again, just let down that mask of her for a moment. It was just before the start of the performance, and she's talking about how something's about to change for her after summer, but Kumiko didn't really know how to respond because she was confused. Like, why was Asuka talking about the end when they still have nationals to go? And I got the feeling that Asuka's sad, not because she doesn't think they'll actually make it to nationals, but because she thinks that she's going to have to quit before that happens, or regardless of whether that happens. And I don't think it'll be something related to study, because I feel like we've covered that plot point quite well through Aoi and Mamiko, but maybe it'll be something similar in that it's something that she's being forced into, or a choice that she is being pressured to make. Or maybe she's just actually moving on to bigger things, bigger and better things in the field of music, but is disappointed because it means that she won't actually get to continue this journey towards nationals with the rest of her bandmates, which, if so, would be quite a turn for Asuka's character, given how little she seemed to care about other people and their impact on her. Keone did a great job of conveying how nerve-wracking the final moments before a competition are, and that includes the tension of being in the same prep room as all the other schools that you're competing against. The final tuning, where you have that ever-present fear in the back of your mind that you're suddenly just going to go out of tune in the middle of the performance. And by the way, I also liked how they focused on the bottle of water vibrating to the tuning B flat. Like, I don't know if it was a deliberate nod to the fact that pitch is created by vibrating at different speeds. Like, slower vibrations create lower pitch sounds and higher speed vibrations create higher pitch sounds. I don't know. It was just an interesting choice and I appreciated it. At one point, Midori pointed out that Kumiko is nervous because she's worried about failing. And for a musician about to embark on a really big performance, that is true, but not in the way that most people think. So for well-prepared musicians, the nerves, the sweating, the butterflies in the stomach, that all stems not from thinking you'll fail because you've not practice enough or you're not good enough. It's more from knowing that despite being so prepared and knowing the music back to front and knowing that you are good, in the world of high stakes music competitions, anything can happen. It's entirely possible to make a mistake that you have never made before in your life at just the wrong moment, and there's nothing you can do about it. Unless you're an alien life form with nerves of steel, there's always that infinitesimal chance that something will go wrong, even though it almost never does go wrong, especially for professional musicians. It's a real mental game. Like, that's why Midori is the strongest. She is that alien life form with nerves of steel because she's way more excited and not really seeming to be nervous at all about competing. Reina's final encouraging finger poke for Kumiko just before they walk out onto the stage was perfection, and that's all I have to say. Okay, the performance itself, they sound amazing for a high school band. So during the first set piece, we dived into Kumiko's monologue about how it's always been her dream to get to nationals, but until now, she has never actually really expended the effort needed to get there. And part of it was her keeping her expectations low so that she couldn't theoretically be disappointed ever, but that just consigned her to the impossibility of ever making that dream come true. So it was kind of amazing to see Kumiko verbalize this very important lesson that she's learned about how there is no reward without risk. You have to put yourself out there and believe that you can do something to even have a shot. The change in Kumiko's outlook has changed her from someone who was kind of dead to everything to now someone who bleeds and sweats and cries and feels very strong emotions. In someone who is actually living life the way it was meant to be lived. The Crescent Moon dance performance was really enjoyable. The animation of all the fingering was, as usual, highly satisfying, as was like the drumming and the tambourine and how they focused on specific sections when it was their turn to play. And I also liked the cuts to Taki conducting and just directing specific sections to come in or like to increase their dynamics. Like just the attention to musical accuracy was very impressive. And just as another specific example, the focus shot on Shuuichi when the trombone section had to play was very well done. Like it was a wordless way to say that his efforts have also paid off because he can confidently play that line now and you can actually hear it in the track. During a performance with no dialogue, they still found little tiny ways to show where the students are at mentally. So they know their music so well, for example, they can draw all over it, and I wouldn't be surprised if they could play the entire piece by heart, just given how much they have practiced. Also drawing like the kanji for nationals in big bold red letters showed how strongly they want to go to nationals. I loved the team glance that Asuka and Kumiko shared between each other, which is also something that happens, and we didn't neglect the members of the band who weren't actually on stage. The shots of them listening nervously from backstage also showed that they were just as invested in the performance as anyone else. Generally, KyoAni portrayed the entire process of practicing and preparing and competing in a music competition so freaking well. Like even towards the end when they were waiting for results, which is absolutely the worst part of a music competition, the tension was really palpable, even though, you know, narratively they're most likely going to win. Also, the way that they physically unrolled the results was really old school, which I loved. Let's talk about Reina's solo. So we have already discussed why she's so good in a previous reaction. I'm just so impressed that KyoAni got an actual professional trumpeter to play her parts. If you are going to convince people that Reina is incredibly talented, for her age, you do need someone who has great technique and like an uncanny sense of dynamics and the sustaining of notes and phrasing and all of that. Cherry on top was Kaori watching Reina like a proud mum during that solo, and these focus shots functioned, I feel, as triggers for arcs and scenes in past episodes that we've gone through, and points to like the central lesson, which is that it was not easy at all for the band to get to this point. There had to be a lot of healing of broken relationships and working through a lot of past tensions and, I guess, misalignment of goals. And now that there has been real progress, you really do look forward to the next season, which they've set up so well. Looking forward to what other hurdles this group of people are going to have to overcome. I found it interesting how every now and then they would cut to the girl from Rikka, Kumiko's friend from primary school, and we haven't been following Rikka, but it was as if to imply that they too most likely have had their own struggles and drama and personal relationship problems to work through, and that they are also nervous about not doing well, even though obviously they are an awesome band. And basically music competitions are tough. Everyone who has earned their spot, you can assume for sure that they've had a really hard journey getting there. The sweat just coming off of Taki in that final flourish, like that final note that they played, just said it all. Everyone, Taki included, gave everything they had to that performance. And for Taki specifically, I kind of wonder in that moment whether he was thinking of that person in the photo, or maybe he wasn't thinking anything at all, like just feeling that huge rush of adrenaline. So also when the students stood up for the applause, it was as if they'd been broken out of a spell, like, which is accurate. Sometimes you get so lost in the music that it takes a while to float back down into the auditorium, and you really felt that with the extended focus on Kumiko's face before the scene just fades out. Like, you really felt the shock and her disbelief that it was all over, that she has come so far and found something that she wants to give her all to. So the wrap up, you know, when it turns out that they won, everyone's reaction is the same across the board. It's shock and then just sheer relief. Everyone except for Asuka. I also love seeing tough-ass Michi-sensei having a good cry into her handkerchief. Like, she loves those kids, even though she yells at them like a pirate captain. However, the most important shots, of course, were reserved for Kumiko and Reina. Those last few shots of them celebrating in tears together, that was a perfect round out to an episode that kept making parallels to the very first episode, to remind us how different things are now. The competition victory encompassed a lot of significant personal victories as well for both Kumiko and Reina. Significantly, they used the same track, the same music track that they used in the very first scene of episode 1, the one that switches between the major and the minor keys. At the end of that first scene in episode 1, there was a huge split between Kumiko and Reina, who didn't understand, well, Kumiko didn't understand why Reina was so upset at not winning, and Reina couldn't understand why Kumiko could be so unmoved by their loss. But now, towards the end of season 1, you have the both of them on the exact same page. They fought really hard to get to where they are. They brushed off a lot of, I guess, misunderstandings and just hate, I guess, thrown their way just because of how passionate they are about their music and doing well, and they're here now. So yeah, I guess today we're gonna find out what other new dramas they could possibly introduce to this band that, you know, is kind of on the way to success, but there's still that big bad nationals competition to conquer. So yeah, let's do this. All right, episode 14 of season 1, aka the OVA, and I'm pretty keen on this one because the title of the episode suggests that it's going to be about the kids who didn't actually make the cut. So if we're ready, let's do this in 3, 2, 1, play. How many of them? It's like not that many out of the 60 or 70 or so members. They're all girls as well. That's interesting. I mean, given the ratio of girls to boys in band, it makes sense. Taki's good at speeches. You know, he may seem a little bit muddle-headed and not really with it, but he's got the motivational side of things down, which I do appreciate about him. So is this the last time we're going to be hearing this OP? It's a weird comment, but I always appreciate the sweat that they show on their faces during their performances. I actually don't know if I've ever, even in competitions in string orchestra, I never played until my sweat dripped down, so these kids definitely working harder than I ever did. Okay. Relatable. Just tune out of that conversation. Are they practicing the parts so that they can be backup, or this is just a completely different set piece? Team is cast. What does that mean? Just one long acronym. Seniority still rules in this band. That girl. Just keeping it real. Loved that string quartet piece. Why? What are you doing here, Asuka? The norminess just kills Asuka. These three are so cute. I'm somewhat surprised that they're all taking this so well. I don't know, maybe we're gonna see some drama soon. Still, it's hard though, it's so hard. Wow, they really have such great strength of character to be able to put aside their sense of personal failure and focus on the team. Yeah, some pretty mature high school students. Hazuki. They are cute together. It has wheels that you're not using. I don't know, I just feel like that is not the safest way to take it down the stairs. I like this piano and strings version of this track. Yeah, that's right. She knows best though. Yeah. Tuba's cool. Concert band is our youth. Okay. I mean, at least these two get their moment together. God, if they just set this episode up and then it turns out that Shuuichi ends up with Kumiko, it'll be such a waste. I mean, hopefully none of them end up together, you know? That also works. Was she wondering if any sparks have been flying? Does she not have eyes? It's like Kumiko's probably with Reina right now. Okay. Man, Hazuki, I really don't think you have anything to worry about. It's already super awkward. It is still. It is such a pain in the butt. Oh no, don't cry, Hazuki. It's okay. Midori is gonna cry for her. She's so good. I feel like what she just said to Hazuki mirrors what she said to Kumiko when she was like, at least you tried. It wasn't nothing, you know? It wasn't all for nothing. They really are going all out to ensure that they pull their weight even in this capacity to support the band. That's really sweet. The one for Yuko. I love Natsuki and Yuko. They just work so well. Natsuki has such an old soul and razor sharp eyes. I mean, of course she would have spotted Hazuki sneakily taking Shuichi's name. Yes. Go us on Natsuki, this is what we're here for. Theory? Oh man. Shuichi, yeah. Oh, theory about Natsuki's dating life. Never dated, but only because she said no to like 100 people. spontaneous. That was an interesting moment. I mean, what was that? They are very lucky they have Natsuki as a senpai. I don't know, what was that? Was it like just a sudden emotion at how innocent Hazuki is, and he's like, oh, yeah. She doesn't hug like this naive, innocent, fluffy junior. Tell her it's gonna be okay. It's totally fine to, you know, like who you like. I don't know. What's wrong with it? I know nothing about Thai, so I don't know. It's a rare moment of interaction between these two. This is just about when she's going to get cut from the part, I guess. Wait. Oh no, this is already competition day. Okay. Hey, she's like starting from the, like, you know, basics. Oh no. So it was Hazuki who sent him. I mean, she's only doing what she thinks is best. Oh, so they actually stayed behind to clean up and then take the train. Man. Very true. Yeah, all the behind the scenes stuff that happens to get a band to anywhere is also really important. What, did she tuck something extra inside? Oh no, it's probably some encouragement to set him free to go for Kumiko. Knuckle is his name. Super sweet. She used to do track, right? Or something, or was it basketball? Do not remember. Natsuki's like, ah, there goes my daughter. Now that's a full-on uphill run. Oh. This is like a mirror of Kumiko's running scene as well. Yeah, and realizing that she's in this for the long run. It's not just a phase. It's like great. They smash these running scenes out of the park. Is that the shrine that Reina took Kumiko up? Ah, yeah. That's right. She's trained for this. Yeah, one thing I will... Man, too much hype. Just gotta let it out. One thing I will give to brass players as a string player is lung capacity. Incredible. I can do it. Oh, such a cute like hairbrush. Hey, that's it. Oh, I don't know why that felt so short again. I mean, I do know it's Kioni magic writing. Okay, this episode I enjoyed that they obviously focused on the kids that aren't front and center, that aren't on the stage and aren't in the lights and having their talents musically showcased. It's kind of like meta commentary, you know. 1 to 13 or episode 13 was all about the performance itself, and you think like that's the main thing, but really there's all this stuff that happens behind the scenes that's equally as important, contributes to the quality of the performance, that actually gets its own spotlight in this extra episode. So yeah, that was nice. I mean, I do appreciate that the actual members in the band as well who have made it to the competition are also appreciative of the girls that are contributing in other ways. Because it's not always necessarily the case. Like there are just, you know, high schoolers. It's like if you don't make it into band, you know, you don't really matter. But I'm glad that it's different with this band. Still, like with the Hazuki, Shuuichi, Kumiko stuff, I'm like, could do without it. It's all right that they left it in there. Like, I just don't really feel much for it. But whatever. Like, I think it shows that Hazuki, no matter what it is that she's put her mind to do, whether it's to support the band, whether it's to, you know, support Shuuichi in his, I guess, quest to win Kumiko's heart, that she will give it her all, and she is able to put aside her own personal wishes and feelings for something that she thinks is for the greater good, which is the best sort of character that you could ask for. Also, I'm glad that we got some conversations between her and Natsuki about why they joined band, and conclusion is you don't join band because it's cool or because it's gonna elevate your status or anything. It's bloody hard work and lots of hours lost to practice, but it's still worth it because you know that you're working towards something that once you reach it, or once you hit a certain goal, there's just no sense of satisfaction that compares to that. So yeah, very wholesome lesson in how to approach music or any other thing in life that really matters to you. Yay, here we are at the start of Hibike season 2. Yeah, at this rate we're definitely going to be able to finish the season before season 3 starts next year. Anyway, what to look forward to? More KumiRei, hopefully, but not getting my hopes up too high. Asuka, figuring out what the heck's going on with her. Also looking forward to getting to know more of the members of the band, given that this show seems to really hone in on the individuality of all the different members. New OP as well, so we're very keen to hear that. And with all that said, let's power on ahead in 3, 2, 1, play. It's winter now, not spring. So the cherry blossoms have fallen. Oh. Okay, very dramatic opening there. Kind of more of a heavy focus on like the electric guitar. Ah, so cute, Natsuki. Oh, da da. Very nice minor third. Triplet, triplet. Who's that? Blue haired girl has popped up quite a few times. Hey, that little look over at Reina. Another one of those moving camera shots. Oh, Asuka and Kumiko. They're my favorite pair as well. After Kumiko and Reina. Okay, very high OP. Nice. This is right after their win. Nice. uh, yeah, if you ask Asuka that, you know what you're gonna get. The complete opposite of what you ask for. Oh, Reina, still crying from all the emotion. Oh, Taki and Shuuichi. I love how Team Monaca's dispersed all throughout the photo. Probably with their different sections. Always starts with that, but then smashes it with really motivational speech. I know. Such a downer. He's already looking forward to the next performance. I wonder if we'll ever see Taki break down emotionally, because so far, up until this point, even throughout the whole competition, he's kept it really cool. Ooh, heads down. Is that the Rikka girl who's already changed? The Rikka girls are probably hurting from... Maybe they're expected to win easily. And... he's got all his aces lined up. But he might lose Asuka soon. Oh, band camp. That's gonna be fun. These kids, they're gonna learn to step off the pedal as well. Can't burn out. Wow. Wow. I'm so impressed. I wonder what Natsuki wanted to ask. Asuka making me really nervous. Hey, they're gonna perform the song that they've been practicing. Hey. Do they not get to re-audition, I guess, to get into the next performance? This is so corny, but amazing. Oh, Hazuki killing it with that bass line. Oh my god, Haruka. Best captain ever. Just like night and day. They actually complement each other so well. Cannot lose Asuka. Oh, more Reina train rides. Nice. She's still so reserved with all of them around. Less so maybe with Kumiko. Just to go back quickly to what Taki said about how each section has a really outstanding player that then raises the standard for the entire section. That's actually really true. Uh, she noticed sort of like the reservedness of Reina. Yeah, just hates boring people. But it is nice to see that her circle is slowly expanding. Because of Kumiko, really. So true. I love how they complement each other. They both have changed each other for the better. How do we come down from this narrative high? It's Kumiko. She's so once she gets home. I mean, she must be tired too. I think Mum is not picking up on certain signals with Mamiko. Sada Girls High School. Oh, those runs are crazy. Oh man. It's like they're out of the pond now and into the big ocean. How early does this girl get up? I die. Did she just lean into Kumiko? Oh man. She needs a face squish from Reina. Oh, checking out the competition already, Taki. Hiroizuka-san. Ah. I mean, at least Kumiko can rib her about it. I always love the oboe. It's kind of like the saddest instrument. Saddest sounding instrument. Reina's like, you, but also I love how you are, that you just say anything that's on your mind without any filter. There was, I don't know, kind of like a lack of vibrato. So here's the blue-haired girl. Oh, Kumiko. Just trying to break the ice, but nope. This block of ice is not melting. Oh. I love this introduction to the oboe. I was thinking that obviously she and Reina have been coming in to practice early since forever. Which is why it's so odd that Kumiko showed up with Reina as well. But that Reina and Mizore, I think her name was, are a very same kind of person, but Reina has been evolving, whereas maybe Mizore is... Oh. Like maybe Mizore is what Reina used to be. Yuko and Mizore. What a fascinating pair. I mean, maybe Yuko is like really protective of Mizore. Why Shuuichi? Just let her look where she wants to. I kid, Shuichi's fine. Man, new characters. Pull what? Okay. Rikka! I wonder how Rikka and Goto are doing. Kumiko does care very much about what's happening with Asuka. Oh, so that was the girl who was lurking around. Oh man, Kumiko, her mouth must get her into trouble so often. Reina. Oh man, that pink shirt is so loud. Ugh, socks and slippers. Oh my god. Bestie, younger brother. Roomies maybe. Oh. Ugh, no. Oh my god. Okay. Clearly this is an anime because in real life that would not fly at all. Nice. That is... No. Just no. Oh man, this guy. He's gonna be around for a while, eh? No. Staggered breathing. Hey, nice. Hey, I do remember having to do staggered bowing as well for really, really long notes in the string section. Asuka's degen look. Asuka's like, Kumiko's my squishy. It's just exhausting. Man. Oh, that was so scary. The way her face switched. In front of everyone. Oh, maybe one of the quitters. Oh, one of the wayward first years who caused trouble last year. Oh. Such a beautiful piece. It's so appropriate while we're focusing on Mizore. Oh. Wait, no, she didn't. Wait, the both of them were the ones who stayed and fought, wanted to do better. Yes, she's a flutist. Oh. It hurts hardest when you fall from grace. But why Asuka specifically? Nope. She's like the real, you know, person pulling the strings. God, she's so cold. She's like a wall. Oh man, this is another one of those protect the kids moments. Okay, recap. It was the first years who wanted to take things seriously, and the third years who didn't. And the second years are caught in between. Man, Asuka. She keeps saying that, but she knows she could make it happen. There we go. Haruka can just let her in, right? But she knows Asuka would kick up a fuss about it, and that's probably not worth it. I just want to know why. Why is her trust so completely broken in Nozomi? Haruka's like, Asuka would kill me. All of that bunch. It's very... The drama is very thick. I'm trying to work it out in my head. And another date. It's Kumiko, just pushing it. It's so cute. That was pretty nice considering. Yeah, and he probably sleeps at the school, doesn't he? It's just like he lives and breathes music. Doesn't really have a life outside of his job. Strategizing. A seed. Is she thinking about like whose side to take, like Nozomi's or Asuka's? It's funny how Mizore kind of just tolerates Yuko's closeness, even though she herself is not someone who likes to initiate contact. Wow, what a nice save, Reina. Kumiko, it's fine. Ugh. Oh god. She's like, Mizore is like almost a combination, yeah, between Reina and Asuka, and she only cares about Nozomi. Some massive falling out occurred. I just don't know between exactly who and who. Oh man, they're pressing the same piece. It's tough. So why is he there again? Just hanging on. Did he lose a job and has nothing else to do? So Taki's like, okay, you just come and entertain the kids for me. But then again, okay. Oh, interesting. It is good to get a third party perspective. You know, once you've been stuck with the band for so long, it's always good to have an outsider come and listen, and they might see different things that need to be worked on. I thought it was just kind of funny. Constructive criticism. Essential. Ah, Gato. But I guess now that they all are united by the same goal, people are much more receptive to criticism if it's helpful. It's like a anxiety attack. Nozomi. Whoa, this is serious. They had a major falling out. If someone's playing can make you sick to the stomach or make you feel like you can't breathe, that is some traumatic shit. What was that moment of pause? So maybe Asuka's just trying to protect the rest of the band. Nozomi must have done something. And she's like, that's unforgivable. Do you also feel for Mamiko? Hey! Cute. Oh my god. Do we have to go through this again? Okay, alright. And they're holding hands too. It's so cute. Are they gonna climb another mountain? She's just saying whatever's come to mind. Whoa, Reina! This is so different. Who are you from the first season, Reina? Whoa! Reina +1. Shuuichi 0. Did Reina just like take a dig at Kumiko for like not really being assertive enough or just making a choice either way? It's so cute. Just like picking up on Hazuki and Midori's antics too. Well, yes, but why? Yes. Asuka's definitely not doing this because of personal grudges, I don't think. Oh, Reina. All three. Oh, yeah, and I get where Reina's coming from, but yeah, everyone's different. Everyone has different tolerances and ways to deal with conflict. It'll be one step on the way to being special. Yeah. I love these two together. They're already planning next year as well. Oh my goodness. Hmm. Okay, screenshot that and then make that a background, desktop background. I can't. I cannot with this gay panic. Man, are we... Symbolically saying that as they're watching fireworks. Oh my god, the hair. Just it's put me out of my misery. Yeah, anyway, fireworks, you know, beautiful and brilliant for just those couple of minutes and then they're gone. I guess stand in for cherry blossoms. Oh, new ED. Vivaci! Which means like lively in Italian. Wait, is it these four that are singing it? Hey! I want to hear Reina sing. Nice. Do they have the red string again in this ED? What is... Oh. Midori is holding her bow. I thought for a second she was holding like a samurai sword. I'm glad that we have met characters like Mizore and Nozomi. It does seem... I would just finish this song before I say anything else. Hey. Okay, guess what's that? Is that like a plaque for the competition? A couple of quick thoughts off the top of my head. I am liking the fact that we are most likely going to delve into the details of the split that happened last year between the first years and third years, given that we're meeting characters who were in the thick of it, namely, I mean, on top of the ones we already know. So we have now met Mizore, the oboist, and Nozomi, the flutist. Those two seem to have some weirdly broken relationship, indicating that they were extremely close prior to, I'm assuming, the drama that erupted. That would explain why Asuka is so reluctant to let Nozomi back in. I'm trying to figure out in my head, so both Mizore and Nozomi seem to be the super ambitious type. I mean, so much so that they wanted to go to nationals. I'm assuming that Nozomi was part of the faction of the first years that did an uprising and left the band, I guess, because they were so sick of the slackness of last year's band. So I'm guessing the reason why she wants to rejoin again is because of the success that they had at the preliminary competition, and just the fact that they are gunning for the Kansai competition. I can kind of see where Asuka's coming from. Like, how can you trust someone who presumably, I don't know, maybe she had another role, but presumably created a rift between the current band. It's like kind of like reintroducing an explosive element. You know, if they could just quit on a whim like that, then who's to say that they won't cause any further damage? Maybe that's actually what Asuka was worried about at the end of last season. It's not that she herself needs to quit, but she knows that Nozomi has been knocking on the door for these past however many weeks or months it's been, and she has to kind of play the bad guy for the sake of protecting the band. The other thing I will say is there's a lot of KumiRei in that episode. I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, it was like the festival, so kind of like a rehash of the episode from last season where they had their first real date. My favorite moment was Reina making a point in front of Shuuichi that, you know, just basically asserting her assertiveness in front of everyone. And when Shuichi's like, oh, no, I mean, no, we're fine, we're on our way, see ya, she's just like, man, just grow a spine. Also, she takes a dig at Kumiko too for not really having a preference, I guess, or showing a preference, and just being very blasé or very passive about what she wants, which is the complete opposite to Reina. But for some reason, the two of them are still thick as thieves because they learn so much from each other, and they are still wrapped together in that very lofty goal of being special. It's fascinating how much Reina has changed. Partly, I think, because her ease with Kumiko and co has smoothed out her rougher edges, and also partly because she came out of a very public, prolonged confrontation with other members of the band, with popular members of the band, by the way. Like, you can't get any more popular than Kaori. She came out of that whole experience a better person by learning that she can let people and friends into her life without giving up her very sacred goal of becoming special. She also learned that it doesn't hurt to be wise with the words that you use to speak truth to people, and that a little humility can go a long way. Also, that having humility can go hand in hand with having extreme confidence in yourself. For example, the way that she diffused the super awkwardness of Mizore asking point blank to Yuko whether she was close with Kumiko and Reina, having no idea of the drama that had unfolded between them. And also the way that Yuko very seamlessly clued into what Reina was doing. That was just a real sign of progress. That is a lot of personal growth that Reina has undertaken throughout this season. I'm actually very, very proud of her. And then we have Kumiko, who still struggling with her very unfortunate habit of speaking without thinking, but who also, because of Reina's influence, has found her stride and has kept up with it. Like, she's going into school early with Reina to practice, and she shares in that excitement with the rest of the band of actually being able to make it to nationals. It's a very real possibility right now. The only concern I have with Kumiko at this point, though, is how she will deal with the situation that's brewing with Nozomi. Ostensibly, as a first year, it really has nothing to do with her, but given her taste for interpersonal drama and conflict. Remember that scene in practice when she's lost in thought about Nozomi and the guest teacher, I forgot his name, Hashimoto, got up in her face and joked about her not being interested in him? Yeah, I just wonder if she will self-insert herself into the conflict between all the different parties and somehow make things worse. Overall, Hibike, I feel, has used music training and being part of a band as the perfect context through which to explore the strengths and the limits and the complexities of human relationships. With Reina, you see what happens when an extremely talented individual and a very assertive one who doesn't see the need to hide their specialness learns that there are positive ways to interact with others without compromising who you are at the core. With Kumiko, you have someone who came from the complete opposite side of the spectrum, like a naturally passive person who also went out of their way to not be special in order to avoid conflict. You saw them learn that it's not wrong to pursue what you enjoy and are good at, and to also assert yourself, regardless of whether people will misunderstand that or not. And now with the issue of Nozomi and whether she should be given a second chance to rejoin the band, you have all the drama that surrounds what happens when trust is broken amongst a very tight-knit group of people. I don't know, potential issues is like, should the people who stayed behind and had to deal with the fallout of the split, should they forgive the people who caused said split and just kind of try moving on? Or, you know, even if they do try to forgive, like, are there certain scars that can't be erased because of how deep the hurt goes? Which brings us to Mizore. Mizore in particular seems to be a character that is very much shaped by trauma. Firstly, trauma of being part of a middle school band who lost a winning streak, and then like the trauma of the whole split that happened at Gitauji, and now, well, the ongoing, I guess, trauma of the broken relationship that exists between her and Nozomi. So initially on the surface, Mizore seems to have similar vibes to Reina. Like, they're both extremely focused on their respective instruments and their craft. They're both kind of socially awkward and seem to be much more comfortable eschewing relations with other people and just kind of doing their own thing. And at times even the way that they speak sounds similar, but I also sense that there are or will be key differences that will emerge the more episodes we watch. For example, socially withdrawn though Reina may be, she never shied away from directly confronting people who challenged her way of thinking or who got in the way of her goal. Like, she herself said that she would beat down anyone who would stop her from doing what she wants. At the moment, we don't know too much about Mizore, but she doesn't seem like the type to do that. She seems to be more of an extreme introvert who just wants to be left alone, and or someone who suppresses any conflict or struggle that they have very tightly inside and would not express what they need to express in the explosive way that Reina would. So Hashimoto, slimy and inappropriate though he may have been, he did seem to know his stuff. He made a comment about how a lot of the students were playing their instruments in a way that reflected their somewhat timid personalities. And that was an interesting point because to some extent, how you express yourself through your music can be indicative of your internal emotions and your confidence. So for Mizore's oboe playing to sound dry, as Kumiko put it, it might indicate that she's quite broken up inside, or that she's very closed off to emotion. And that might be one, because she's a person who's naturally inclined to be like that, to close herself off, but also clearly she's been very hurt by recent events, and healing needs to take place before she can really fully let go and express a free and unencumbered sound. That cool scene where they introduced the oboe and described it as one of the sweetest sounding instruments. Coincidentally, I've also heard it described as one of the saddest sounding instruments because of its tone, and also the way it can slice through the thick blanket of orchestral sound, which makes it an ideal candidate for the more emotional parts that really need to get through to the audience. So that was fascinating. I wish I remembered which music podcast it was that I watched, that I heard this from, but it was like a great segment on oboes that also talked about how it's incredibly difficult to play because of how much air pressure or air needs to be pushed through a relatively tiny reed. Similarly, actually, if Mizore is anything like the oboe that she plays, I surmise that she will turn out to be a character that bottles up an incredible amount of emotion inside that needs to come rushing out. As opposed to Reina, who likewise, like her trumpet, is very loud and out about what she's feeling at any given moment. So it's actually fascinating how the choice of instruments themselves can say a lot about a character and how they're built. And if I were to guess, I think a lot of thought would have been put into which character would play which instrument. My first impressions of Nozomi is that she did the right thing, or what she thought was the right thing at the time of the split, but is also self-aware that her choices impacted on a lot of people in a negative way and is ready to make amends for that. So I don't know if Reina's statement about her quitting as being equivalent to running away is accurate. Maybe Nozomi quit as a matter of principle, as a strong statement to the third years that their laziness would have serious consequences. And even if she did quit because she didn't want to deal anymore with the intractable conflict, and as a first year didn't really have much power or say, it would also be understandable. It's not easy staying in a situation where you have no control and it's just constant suffering being in a band that doesn't have a united goal. Obviously, I think more will reveal itself in the coming episodes, and maybe Nozomi played a much more active role in the split. The other thing I'm really curious about is whether she can be blamed fully for how her actions had an outsized impact on Mizore. Like, the girl literally gets sick every time she hears Nozomi play her flute, which is bizarre. Like, it'll be interesting to parse the factors that contributed to why their relationship is the way it is. And I'm guessing, again, as with a lot of Kyoani nuance in how they deal with relationships, that the blame can't be put fully on one person or the other. Wow, that was a huge ramble. Sorry, guys. Let's kick off episode 2 in 3, 2, 1, play. The Asuka head rub. Oh man, it's so typical of Kumiko to be engrossed by this latest drama. It's like she's constantly thinking about it. I love how this starts in black and white. Very different to the first OP. These four, all of them from Minami Middle School, I believe. Don't remember. Hey. Oh, that's Mamiko teaching Kumiko, and I think Shuuichi is sitting next to them. I don't even know why I did not recognize that. Who was that? Taki with someone else. Yes. Is he getting paid for this gig? He's just bored with life. Bon holiday. Dude. Man, cover your mouth, man. It's so strange to see Asuka be so melancholy. Is this the obligatory like bathing suit episode? Okay. Kumiko, I mean, could you please hide your gay a little better? Oh, it's okay. Go back to that now. See, Kumiko has to act in a way that lets us know that that is still the real Kumiko inside, after all. Oh man, public pools. It's like the sixth circle of hell. Kumiko. Oh my god. Do not stop looking. Damn, Asuka. Asuka's hot. Sorry. Just have to say facts. Okay. Man, the hair. Yuka's hair like this is guess have a different vibe. I mean, those two are definitely dating already. Cannot change my mind about that. Natsuki and Yuka. Midori is so small. Oh boy. Is she here for an excuse to talk to Asuka and the others? Kumiko! Oh man, Kumiko. Okay, okay, with the Natsuki. It's just for today. Oh. Oh, she's thinking about how it's now all about meritocracy. Bit wishful that that wasn't the case last year. Nice, Kumiko! Just being inspired by a memory of Reina. Oh man. She was getting ready to be super defensive and actually stood her ground, even though she didn't have to. Good question. Yes, this is where we get the story. Oh, she was the faceless girl. Not untrue. Just wise old words from Asuka. Yeah, so she's not in it just to get into the Kansai competition now that they have a chance at that. And Asuka knows that too. Yeah, that's what they talked about last episode. Maybe Asuka's looking out for Mizore for whatever reason. She's texting Nozomi. Yeah. They need her. Ooh, I guess there's a conflict there. Is there a bit of self-interest in there too? Like she says she wants to help, but also it'd be nice to be in a band that actually tries. She's one of Kumiko's and Reina's peoples. So it was just her that quit, but did the others quit because she also quit? Yeah, I don't really understand why. I mean, I'm positive Asuka has a good reason, just trying to work that out. Maybe because Mizore is the only OVA and because Mizore. Oh god, Kumiko is gonna face up to Asuka. Somehow I don't think that's gonna work out well. Yeah, I actually think Asuka's protecting their only oboe. Or maybe she's no longer their only oboe. Who knows? Again, so wrapped up in drama that Kumiko totally forgot her own friends. It's a bit out of tune there. Wow, that's pretty fancy camp. Man, that messy hair. That looks perfect. Okay. Yeah, kind of figured that out given how early he was in the staff room every day, just checking out the competition. Oh boy, Kumiko. I can't believe she's gonna do this. Yeah, she's painted herself into a corner now. Oh. I mean, of course Taki would have all the connections. Oh, casual flirtation. God, I hope Reina doesn't get heart palpitations. Mizore uninterested. Oh god. Here we go. Yep. Here we go with the unrequited love arc. That's gonna be absolute hell because teacher and student. Okay, why has Midori barely eaten anything on her plate? Oh god, Reina can't even feed herself. Yes, but she's still gonna talk to Asuka. Still strategizing with Nozomi. Is Natsuki gonna be smart and be like, don't say anything yet, Kumiko? On the other hand, she does say that Asuka has a soft spot for Kumiko. Nozomi's a nice person at heart. Oh. Okay, so to be president, you've got to be really popular, right? So she must have had a lot of influence over her class. I guess diplomacy is not Natsuki's strong suit. How could you? It's such a hard situation. It's really hard to respond to assholes like that. Yeah, but it did not help the situation either. Yeah, just let the kids play and be happy. Kumiko and Mizore confrontation. Conversation. Okay, the fact that they're showing Mizore in the background as Kumiko is thinking about that makes me think Asuka's protecting Mizore. Oh man, I relate so much to. Okay, reaching out to Kumiko. She hears it all in her head. Yeah. She's got a point. There's always an element of subjectivity when it comes to judging music. It's the promise she made with Nozomi. What do those flowers symbolize? Mizore is such a fascinating character. It's trying to unpack like the tension and conflict that she's feeling. Also, playing rhythm games without music, not being able to withstand certain pieces of music because it brings up such bad memories. Totally relatable. These two. Oh, God. Oh yes, Reina, like maybe, just maybe think that a teacher is aware that they shouldn't be dabbling around in romantic relationships with their students. Jail time, man. Oh my god, okay, I know, this is anime trope, I know. Hmm. Psst. One day they'll figure out that they're meant for each other. I wonder if Asuka's a morning person. Oh no! Oh, the big conversation is next episode. Hmm. Still not really closer to figuring out what happened between Mizore and Nozomi. I mean, okay, no, that's not true. I think from what we heard from Nozomi, potentially the fact that Mizore was the only oboe meant that she couldn't quit or didn't want to quit. She had less of a stake in making the third years actually take it seriously. She also would have had the chance to compete, even though they wouldn't have been doing their best because their band was made up of people who didn't care either way. But maybe there was less of attention there because Mizore didn't have to deal with the whole seniority unfairness, but Nozomi had to. I don't know. Maybe Nozomi really wanted Mizore to be there with her when she made that decision to quit, and potentially also made half of the first years quit. But Nozomi said no because she's like, one, I'm not interested in the drama surrounding band. Two, I'm in the competition, so I'm just gonna do what I do best and play my oboe. And three, maybe you shouldn't be forcing me to do this. But it doesn't seem like Nozomi is the kind of person to force people into anything. I don't know. Just probably gonna have to find out the answer to a lot of these questions in the next, well, the coming next episodes. I have more questions now than ever before. So we found out why Nozomi is so dead set on having Asuka's approval before she joins the band. It's because she ignored Asuka's advice about waiting the war out, and I think it's one of those situations where there was no absolute right or wrong as to what one should have done. In terms of the split, and quitting, I think Nozomi was well within her rights to quit because it was understandably frustrating for her to try so hard and yet not get anywhere because the third years held all the power, and the teacher they had at the time obviously didn't see a need to change anything in terms of the system or the way that the band was run and how people were selected to go to competitions. At the same time, what Asuka said to Nozomi about quitting being stupid is not the word I personally would have chosen, but it was true that had Nozomi just waited the year out, she would have found herself in a band filled with people who shared her ambition of wanting to take things seriously. Instead, it seems like Nozomi, being the kind of person that she is, kind of a little bit like Reina, honest to a fault, that she chose to confront the third years and did make a statement by throwing her hands up and quitting, and likely, just given her position, also influenced other first years to quit with her, which massively reduced the competitiveness of the band, which was already low. And that itself, that split, would have led to a lot of, as we see, a lot of broken relationships and hurt feelings. But again, I'm really not sure even now that it was right to blame Nozomi for that. With regards to Mizore, her hate for competitions, I think, stems directly from the way that Nozomi handled the situation last year. Now that I'm rethinking things, I think the more likely scenario was that Mizore agreed more with Asuka, or is more similar to Asuka in that she just wants to not stoke conflict and just let things be how they are and get to play her oboe. Maybe Mizore was fine with being more patient and waiting until they had a band with which to pursue their dream of heading to nationals, but the fact that Nozomi couldn't and wouldn't do that and played a key role in stoking the conflict further led to Mizore feeling abandoned, maybe, that by someone that she considered a close friend. Like, we know that Mizore and Nozomi were tight, and the fact that Nozomi could just quit like that hurt Mizore deeply. Again, don't think, if that's the case, that Nozomi is completely to blame and that maybe Mizore has issues herself that she has to deal with. Or maybe Mizore is just the kind of person that hates dealing with conflict and prefers not to deal with it. And the fact that Nozomi is the total opposite to that and couldn't keep her words and her feelings inside and to herself made Mizore angry. Like, why couldn't Nozomi have just left it be, and instead she made things worse? Yeah, I guess the vastly different ways that people deal with conflict, ironically, itself can lead to further conflict. Yeah, I guess I'll leave it there. I do have to run. I definitely need to go back through those 2 episodes with a fine comb to see if I can pick up on any further details. I am also greatly enjoying trying to suss out the very complex feelings and thoughts that both are and aren't being explicitly said by the different characters. So yeah, I look forward very much to reading all of your comments. They should be interesting for these 2 episodes. And until next time, guys, take care and I'll see you all soon.